Hi guys, this is Stephanie of Melanin Power. I wanted to come on here. I hope you're having a great day, number one. So I wanted to come on here just to share a few tips on what I face on a daily basis. So what I do on most of my days are not just accounting, but interviewing. I do a lot of interviews on a daily basis for positions that are open up in the company. And I really wanted to touch on some things that I witness every time I do interviews. Number one, I'm going to dive right into it. So it's number one, your resumes that should always be updated. You should always have an updated resume, because when I print resumes off of whatever website I pull it off of, and it says 2021 to current, I'm expecting that you're still at that job, right? When you come in and I say to you, so I see you're still working, what's going on there? And you tell me you're no longer working. Okay, please update your resumes. If you're no longer there, current should not be on your resume. You should actually take current off. If you're no longer there, your resume should not be saying current, right? A resume that has a cover letter, I'm not big on cover letters because it just takes too much time, especially when I have 100, 200 resumes that I need to be going through. If you have a great opening objective, that should give me a brief synopsis of what you're looking for in a company and what you're looking to achieve in a company. I'm not a big fan of cover letters. It's just too much, especially when you have a 3 or 4 page resume that you come with a cover letter. It's just a little too much. A lot of companies are not big on cover letters either. Make sure you have a great opening objective, and that should work just as great as a cover letter, right? When someone shows up, when you show up for an interview, make sure you have ID. Because a lot of companies, I always say, can I see your ID? Because I want to make sure if your name on your resume says Peter Small, I want to make sure that I'm interviewing Peter Small. So it's important that you always walk with an ID when you show up for an interview. So this way the interviewer feels a lot more comfortable sitting and speaking with the person that's listed on the resume, right? Another thing, if you're submitting a resume, and let's say in the US, make sure that resume is in English, because, and there's nothing wrong with speaking another language. It's just that if you're in the US, just keep in mind that they just might be speaking English. You know what I'm saying? So always make sure that your resume is in English if you're applying in the US, unless the job description states submit your resume in another language, Portuguese, French, Spanish. Just make sure that when you're showing up for an interview, your resume is in English, and make sure when I'm printing it, wherever you submit it, it's in English, because it's pretty much the norm. It's not, I shouldn't even have to say that, because I think, people should know that your resume should be in English. If you're applying for a job and you're posting your resumes online, it should be in English, or you can have an English version and another version of the language that your first language. I'm not saying that you should not have another language. If you have another language that you like to put your resumes in, then submit 2 resumes, because a lot of companies are looking for resumes in English, right? Another thing, let's see. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So if I have, which I always do, 200-300 resumes to go through, and your resume has a major gap on it, let's just say you worked from 2021 to 2022, and then your next job was 2024 to current. I need to know what happened in that gap. You know what I'm saying? I need to know that. You can put temp agency for 2 years. You can put pregnancy for 2 years, within that gap. You can put a loss in the family. You can put some, you don't have to go into details, but give the interviewer something to go by, because I don't print resumes with major gap. And that's the reason, because I don't see anything explaining where there's a gap. You know what I'm saying? Why there's a gap. So it's important that you give the interviewer, the benefit of the doubt, and let them know temping for 2 years, temping from 2021 to 2022, had a baby, pregnancy from what year to what year. So this way the interviewer would just not look at your resume and say, oh, there's a gap here. I'm not going to do a soft search on you. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? It'll save me the time of doing a soft search on you, or for whatever reasons, it'll save me the time that I don't have when I'm interviewing, because it's nonstop all day, right? So if your resume is 7 pages long, 5, 6, 7 pages long, I'm not printing it. I'm not printing it. A lot of companies just might print it, but most companies would not print a 7-page length resume because they don't have the time for that. Try to put the most pertinent information on your resume, so this way the best of you shows. You know what I'm saying? So if you have stuff going back to the 80s, companies don't want to see that unless you're still there. If you're still there, then that looks really good on your resume. But if you're no longer there and you've left there for the last 15, 20 years, you've left that company and it's still on your resume, it's not okay. It's not okay that you have it on your resume, and it doesn't look good. You know what I'm saying? It makes your resume look crowded, especially when you have a lot of other stuff on there. It makes it look crowding and complicated. And an interview and the person that's looking at it is saying the same thing. They're looking at it and they're saying, why 70, 80s, they left there 15 years ago. They're not interested, especially if the experience that they're looking for is back then 15 years ago. It's not current. You've had a job for 10 years after that, another one for 5 years after that, and it's different skill set. So please just make sure that your resume is updated. It's so important, because your resume is your foot to get in that door, because if your resume is not current and updated, no one's printing the resume. And trust me, I know, because I don't print it. I see resumes all day, and it's just unfortunate that that there's so much information that needs to be on the resume and it's not on there, and you lose out, right? Another thing, if your resume is at 4 p.m., please don't show up at 3:30. Don't show up at 3:30. Your resume is at 4 o'clock. 3:45, 3:45, 10 to 4, fine, that's fine. But when you show up at 3:30, it's not it's not one of those, I'm going to be really early for this interview. No, because you take time out of the interviewer's day for her to finish up, or for him to finish up whatever he's doing, because he feels guilty or she feels guilty that you have to sit there for half an hour or for 20 minutes. So don't put that kind of a leverage on the table for an interviewer. You know what I'm saying? Just, your interview is at 4, 15 minutes earlier, and 10 minutes earlier, that's fine. But don't show up half an hour earlier. It's just not a good look, So just be mindful. And one more thing. If you were in the medical field at some point in your life, and now you decided you're in the accounting field, don't combine the resumes, okay? Don't combine the resumes. Have a resume for medical and have a resume for accounting. When you combine and lump it all together, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's like applying for a flight attendant and putting all accounting stuff on your resume. No customer service experience on there. All you're putting is accounting stuff. You're applying for a flight attendant job. If you're applying for an accounting job, the person that's interviewing doesn't want to see that you're a nurse. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not part of the skill set that they're looking for. So just be very mindful. It's okay to have 2 or 3 resumes, and you submit the resume according to the skills that the employer is looking for. So just be really mindful, because that can get really complicated fast. Yes, because I have a couple of resumes. You have to, because there's a lot of skill set that needs to be, put on resumes, and you can't lump it all on one resume. So I just wanted to just share that with you, because a lot of people, I don't think they realize, what I hear a lot is that Yeah, I have to update it. Yeah, I have to update it. I hear that a lot, a lot. Yeah, I have to update it. Oh, really? That's the resume that's the resume that's on the website. Yeah, that's the resume. And you're not walking with an updated one, you know. So we're using the old one that you listed, and it just makes stuff a little more complicated. All right. So that's pretty much it. When my days are I'm still interviewing. So I just wanted to share with you the do's and don'ts of resumes and when you're submitting a resume. So again, this is Stephanie from Melanin Power. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And I'll be back soon, okay? And remember, every day above ground is a good day. All right? Bye-bye.